Welcome back to the Brewtime podcast, folks. In a second, we'll crack on with a chat with Johnny Ward. First off, a huge shout out to this week's sponsors, who are Innov. Now, Innov specialise in motorcycle dashcam systems. I have the K3 currently on the bike. I'm going to switch back to the K5, which is their flagship 4K model. The K series are front and rear cameras. They do the C5, which is a single camera system. You can also use that with a battery pack as a helmet camera. Innov are pretty much the world leaders in motorcycle dashcam systems. They are a sponsor of the main TeapotOne channel, so a huge thank you to them for that. If you head on over to the main TeapotOne YouTube channel, you'll see in any of the vids where I'm riding the big old tractor, the big new GS 1250 GS, I have the camera systems mounted in there, and you'll be able to see some footage. I've done a couple of vids on installation and comparisons and things. Well worth it, folks. They switch on as soon as you turn the ignition on and start recording. Your bike is covered 24/7 if you invoke the parking mode. They're a great bit of kit. If anything happens to you out on the road, the first thing your insurance company will ask is there CCTV? And if you have one of these fitted, then you can say yes. Head to innov.co.uk. That's innov.co.uk/TP1 for more info. A huge thank you to Ultimate Add-ons. Ultimate Add-ons are the premium manufacturer of mobile phone and action camera mounting solutions for motorcycles, with a kit for any bike and a proven track record of creating products that keep your devices safe. You know the score, folks. If you listen to this every week, you know the score here. In all of my review vids, you'll see the Ultimate Add-ons phone holder, which I use with the ratchet strap. Allows me to connect it to just about any bike out there, and then I put my phone in there with the Kalimoto app, and I've got SatNav. Cracking little device, keeps your phone totally waterproof, totally safe, and you can still use the camera and everything whilst it's within the case. So head to ultimateaddons.com, that's ultimate with ADDONS, all one word, ultimateaddons.com, and if you use the code TeapotOne with the number 10, TeapotOne10, you'll get 10% off at checkout. Right, folks, let's crack on with this week's episode. This week's guest is a chap called Johnny Ward. Really interesting guy. I had never heard about him until I started following the Atlantic Dash, which was a team of 4 lads who set off a couple of months ago to row across the Atlantic Ocean. I started following, and Johnny was one of the crew. Really interesting chap. He is a travel blogger by trade, has made a damn good living from it. The guy has been to every single country on Earth, and he's got even more in store. Hope you enjoy this one, folks. I did. Shall we just crack on then?
Aye.
Right, lovely job. Folks, welcome back to Brewtime. I think this is episode 58, and this week we've got Johnny Ward. How you doing, Johnny?
Good, mate. How are you?
All good, pal. All good. Thank you very much for agreeing to come on. I know you're a busy man.
Try my best.
You came up on my radar initially because of the Atlantic Dash. I've been following because of the, every year they do the Talisker Whiskey Challenge. I've been following some of them. So when you guys were going to go and do your challenge, it popped up on my feed. I was like, oh, I'll follow that. And that's how you came on my radar. Now, obviously, I started digging a little bit deeper with you. My God, you're a fascinating character. You've been up to a few things, haven't you?
Yeah, it's kind of picked up the pace in the last few years because I'm 37 now, and pretty much the whole way. Oh, sorry, mate.
Sorry.
It's picked up the pace in the last few years because I had taken an 11-year journey to every country in the world, so I'd always wanted to do loads of other cool stuff.
Yeah.
As well as that, but I was so consumed by the every country in the world thing that I couldn't do anything. So then, as soon as I finished that in 2017, I've been doing some more crazy stuff. Yeah,
fantastic. Well, shall we start with that then? Normally, what I do is right at the very start, I'll go, okay, what's your name? Who, what have you done? Where have you been? Over to you. So if we do that initially, and then we can go from there.
Sure.
Johnny Ward, over to you.
Hi, so yeah, my name's Johnny. I'm from Ireland. You can probably pick that up from my accent. And by trade, I guess I would be called a blogger. I'm a blogger at onestepforward.com with the number 4. I'm in my mid-30s. Some might call it late 30s. unfortunately. And over the last kind of 15 years since I finished university, I've used my blog and my life to show, or what I hope to show, that you can come from a single parent family, from a working class background, and still do cool stuff with your life and achieve big things. And you don't necessarily need that privilege in your life, people, to do that. So my blog kind of got a little bit famous when I did a 10-year journey to every country in the world. And then since then, I've been trying to climb the 7 summits, the highest mountain in every continent, the North Pole, South Pole. And I've been doing loads of ultra marathons and cycling across countries and rowing across oceans and stuff like that since then. So that's in the last few years.
Oh, so, and your next thing is, well, not your next thing, but like, you're setting your sights on Everest as well, aren't you?
Yeah, I've just
with
signed
the
up
7 highest peaks. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, I was supposed to go basically last month, but obviously COVID last year, all the 7 summits that I'm doing all been pushed back a year or two. So
right.
I've got Denali, which is North America's highest, next summer, which was again supposed to be this summer. So then Everest is the following year again still.
Mega. So how long did every country in the world, how long did that take?
Quite a long time, to be honest. So I went, like I say, I'm 37. So I finished uni at 18. I finished school at 18, then went to uni until I was 22.
Uh-huh.
And then basically I finished in 2017. So that was 4 years ago, 33. I finished. So basically from 23 to 33. So it took me a decade. And I wanted to do it properly. I know like a lot of social media people are trying to rush around an hour in each country and all that. I wanted to try to do kind of 10 days, at least 2 weeks in each country, and sometimes like 6 months in India and Brazil and stuff like that. So it took me a decade of almost full-time travel.
Wow. So what, you were constantly on the road from one to the next, or did
10 months a year? Yeah. I do 9 or 10 months travel, like 2 nights, 1 night, 3 nights, you know what I mean? Just constantly traveling. And then I'd burn out and go back to Thailand where I'm based and try to recover in Thailand for 2 or 3 months and then start it again.
Nice. You're up in Chiang Mai, aren't you? Is that right?
I'm building a house in Chiang Mai, but I'm actually, originally I was in Chiang Mai, but I've been in the last kind of 8 years, I've been in Bangkok, but I'm when my house finishes, I'm back to Chiang Mai. Yeah,
I spent a little, just a matter of weeks up in Chiang Mai. Loved it. Absolutely loved it. It's beautiful. Up in northern Thailand's beautiful, isn't it?
Beautiful. And the weather's a bit more forgiving. You know, I've got Irish pigment, so like I can't be dealing with the heat too much in the sun. So the north's a bit more forgiving.
Phenomenal. How long do you have for this? How long have we got for a chat?
At least half an hour is fine with me, mate.
Cool. Right. What I suggest we do then is we crack straight on with the questions, because they can often take us down all manner of different avenues. So we'll crack on first with them then. We'll go to Patreon first, to the clan. That's over at patreon.com/TeapotOne. First one, Matt Jordan. I hope you're both well. I have a fairly simple question. Do you think there will ever be a day where you'll run out of challenges or places to explore? If so, what then?
Oh,
yep, right in at the deep end.
I don't know, mate, but I've had a few projects that have been cancelled. I had a TV show that was cancelled, actually, that was going to go from Bangkok to Belfast. I'm from Northern Ireland, by tuk-tuk. So like from my new home to my new home by tuk-tuk, and that got cancelled. So I couldn't do that. And I have this really cool idea to do around the world in 80 days, but with cargo ships across the oceans, following the book's journey. I want to do that. And then also over the last few years, because of all the contacts I made from like that kind of hardcore travel to like Libya and Yemen and all that, I made loads of cool friends in what people would say are strange countries to visit. So I've been running a lot of group trips through my blog to like Iraq and Afghanistan and Yemen and stuff. And I really get a lot of joy out of showcasing countries that people generally avoid and showing the other side that you don't hear in the news, where normally it's just all bombs and beheadings, but actually beautiful functioning countries. And I really enjoy doing that. So I'll continue to do that for the rest of my life as well. I can't imagine I'll ever run out, no.
Yeah, that's the beauty of travel, isn't it? Is that especially like overland style travel, where you're not doing a package tour type thing where you fly in, you get bused to a hotel, you get shown around the tourist bits, and then you foxtrot Oscar back out. When you're actually traveling across the ground and meeting the real people of the place, you very quickly realise that everyone's the same, aren't they? You know, you might speak a different language, you might worship different people or different ideas, but most people are exactly the same. They're good people. They're just looking after the families. They'll help you if they can. That's something that I find is very grounding with travel. Travel broadens the mind, doesn't it? And it broadens the soul for sure.
Yeah, and I think like also to have the opportunity, if you're fortunate enough to have carved out a way to make your money online, to work online, essentially, then you've always got the opportunity, even if it's not travel, to, as you get older, even with kids and stuff, to live in different countries. You know, obviously I've been to every country, but it'd be cool for me to go and live in Japan for 6 months, or to live in Mozambique for 3 months. You know what I mean? So I could always, definitely. I would love to do something like that.
Well, shall we touch on that then? Because I'm sure everybody is out there screaming at their either screen or their phone at the moment, going, "It's all well and good, but how do you afford that? How do you facilitate like this dream lifestyle that you have?"
Well, first of all, it's not such. I mean, yeah, it's a cool lifestyle, but no lifestyle is perfect. And Instagram, and I hope I'm not as guilty, but I'm sure I fall into the trap. It's not all cocktails on the beach. You know what I mean? I still have to grind it out on my laptop a lot of the time as well. But yeah. My story's gone viral a few times. When I finished my journey to every country, it went viral. It went a little bit viral there with the row, and when BBC kicked it off. And also I wrote a blog post back in 2015 when I made my first $1 million from my blog. And when those hang
on, my first $1 million. We live different lives.
When those stories all went viral, like the comments and stuff, when I wasn't used to being on mainstream media all over the place, and everyone's just like, yeah, rich parents. And I'm just like, you guys don't have a clue about my story at all. You know what I mean? And people are very quick to think that. So yeah, I come from quite a different situation. I was born in the Republic of Ireland, and my father was a really bad guy and in that prison and blah, blah, blah. And then we moved to the north of Ireland to escape that in the middle of the night, all this dramatic situation. And I grew up single parent, and we were on welfare on the dole for over a decade. And anyway, my mum was always very supportive of like me following my dreams and all that, and big into education. So despite that, like she was always teaching me I can do what I want and be what I want. So then after university, first of all, uni was like barely a choice for me. It's just like go to uni. So I did that. And after uni, I went on a gap year to Thailand. Gap year, but my mum had no money to pay for a gap year, so I had to work. So I was I taught English in Thailand for a year, which is how I ended up learning the language and falling in love with it. And now, obviously, I'm free. I've moved back there, so I couldn't travel in my gap year. I had to work, which was great. And I taught English there for a year, and then I traveled around Asia for 2 or 3 years. And every time I ran out of money, I would fly to. I had a contact in South Korea, and I would work on these English camps in South Korea. And they would give me $2,000 or whatever tax free, and I would use that, travel again in Asia, run out of money back to Korea. But I was traveling super cheap, like £5 a day, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Nepal, sleeping rough in bus stations and docks and all that. And then I got to like 27, 28, so 10 years ago from now, and I was like, oh God, I'm getting into my kind of mid to late 20s. Being a broke traveler has been so cool for like 5 years, but is it cool as I'm getting older, or am I just kind of being like a bit of a bum? And I had a bit of an existential crisis. So I did what every self-respecting Irishman does and got a working holiday visa in Australia, like half the population of Ireland. And I got a real job, my only real job for a year in Australia, working in a corporate setting in a suit, cold calling companies, grim.
Ooh.
But anyway, during that time, I knew I was miserable. I was like in tears on a Sunday, thinking I've got to join the grind again on the Monday, and it was really affected my mental health. And I started to read about. That was just the first wave of bloggers. This was pre-Instagram, pre-YouTube 10 years ago, and I just started to hear about bloggers kind of making a living from blogging. Some people making $1,000 a month, some people making 2, and a guy called Nomadic Matt, who's quite a big blogger, making $3,000 a month. And I was like, whoa, I've done loads of cool stuff over the last few years. Maybe I can show people my lifestyle and show them that they can do what I'm doing. So then I started my blog in 2010, and I quit my job, flew one way to Zimbabwe, and then spent a year doing overland, Cape Town to Cairo and on beyond into Syria and all, and just kept blogging the whole way. And I was just blogging every day, pretty cringy, awful content now looking back at it, to be honest. But that kind of changed my life. And by the end of that year, I was making about $500 a month from my blog, from adverts on my blog. Right. And then that's what I've been doing since then. So kind of 2011, I moved back to Thailand, tried to generate a bit more revenue. And then I kind of managed to make a normal income from like maybe $2,000-3,000 a month. So I was up to kind of like a normal Western income, like a teacher's salary or something in 2011 when I was in Thailand, pinching myself. And then 2012, I did a cool trip overland from Thailand back to Europe without flying, Trans-Siberian, and then trains and buses and all through China. It was cool. And during that year, the adverts went absolutely mad. And by the end of the year, I was doing like $30,000-$40,000 a month on my blog, being like,
kidding me? Wow.
And I don't come from that kind of background. I was like, well, I have no idea what's happening here. And then the going's been good then the last kind of 6-7 years. And that's brought me up to today.
Good God, why didn't I think of that? Well, when I was traveling,
I should say those were the golden days. Not like that anymore.
I suppose well, not everybody's doing it, but obviously the secret's out, isn't it? And more and more people are doing it. Wow, that's incredible. Awesome.
Yeah, wild.
Brilliant. Right, okay, let's crack on with the next one then, conscious of time here. Brian McManus. Hello to one and all. My questions to Johnny are, 1, potato bread or soda far with your question. Ulster fry?
He's from Northern Ireland, that guy for sure. And it's a very easy question for me, actually. I love potato bread. Love it. And actually, I haven't even thought of the word potato bread in years. And now I'm with my mum. I might even get that today. That's actually delightful.
I've never had it. Don't think I've ever had either.
It's special. They're both from the north of Ireland. Yeah, it's so special.
Right, mega. I'll have to try that then. Question 2. If you could bottle the self-drive that keeps you going, what would you call it?
I would call it imposter juice, because I don't feel like I've got any more drive than anyone else. I've got all that self-doubt in my mind every night before I go to sleep, every day when I'm trying to struggle to get on my emails to go for a run. And blah, blah. Like, I've got no more drive than anyone else. I guess I just fear failure a little bit more. I really just, I've got as much doubt, if not more, than self-doubt than everyone else has. Is that
your drive then? Is that what pushes you forward? Is the fear of failing?
I always really didn't want to live an average life, and I was obsessed with the concept of not living an average life. And I feel like we're very lucky to be born with a Western passport, with a Western currency as our currency.
Absolutely.
Healthcare and education. So we've already been given a huge leg up versus the rest of the world. So I wanted to make sure I made the most of that. And then also, like, growing up without any money, I remember being like having quite a lot of anxiety as a kid financially. So then that's what made me want to be financially free. But actually it's the physical. I'm sure the question is more about all the physical stuff I've been doing recently. And I just feel like I feel very, very, very fortunate to be able to just think, okay, I'm going to row across the Atlantic. Okay, I'm going to cycle from Malaysia to China. Okay, I'm going to spend 2 weeks running in the Sahara or whatever. You know what I mean? I feel very, very fortunate to have the time that I can commit to train for that kind of stuff and then to do those expeditions, because your whole life goes on pause. And again, I want to make the most of the opportunity. I'm lucky to have it, and I want to make sure that I feel like I've used it.
Going back to the Atlantic row there, something that really struck a chord with me was that you almost sound disappointed at how unphysical that challenge was compared to what you thought it was going to be. But you sounded like you were taken aback by how hard mentally it was. It was almost like the total opposite of what you expected.
Completely spot on, mate. That's basically the entire gist of how I felt about it. So first of all, like when I heard about rowing the Atlantic, I thought, like, God, 2 hours on, 2 hours off, 24 hours a day, 2 months, like must kill you physically. And I'd just done a big ultra marathon before I signed up for a 200 miler. I felt really fit. And I was like, right, I'm probably fit enough for this now, but I don't know, maybe I need to be even fitter. And I'm like, God, I don't have to train so hard. And anyway, to cut a long story short, then I got into the community, and then I started my row or just before the row. And I realized, like, it's not actually that physical a thing. And I feel like you get too much kudos. I feel like I don't deserve the kudos that I got online for rowing the Atlantic, because it's not actually that physically hard. Anyone can do it. All you have to do is sign up to suffer in a terrible, uncomfortable space and have no privacy and only time to think about your life and all the stuff you've done wrong. So you have to suffer in a tiny little space, but actually physically anyone can do it. And I mean anyone. I mean like a 12-year-old to an 82-year-old. And I was hoping, like you kind of touched on there, that I was going to be joining like with Everest. I know that it's quite fashionable to say that, oh, Everest is just a rich man's plaything, blah, blah, blah. But obviously, as someone who's done a lot of high altitude mountaineering in recent years, everyone who does Everest is a legitimate beast. Right. Yes, they've spent a lot of money on it, and yes, the Sherpas help, but you have to be a beast. Otherwise, you'll die up there.
Mm-hmm.
And I was kind of thinking that the ocean rowing would be like that, and everyone would be a beast, and I'd be joining this like alumni of beasts. And I was like, yes, give me that. I want to feel like that. But actually it's a little bit of a kind of cheat mode, because it's the kind of thing that you can say like, oh, I rode the Atlantic, but it's not as hard as the general population think.
If you were to do it again, would you do it solo?
Yes.
Would you?
That's
the thing, isn't it? Like, I mean, it's a pipe dream at the moment, but watching you guys do it, it's like, ooh, can I do that? And I'll just take the money out the equation, like having to raise 150 grand or whatever it is to actually do it. I was thinking to myself, I thought, do you want to be by yourself for that length of time where it's just you and, you know, obviously you've got more room because there's just you in the boat? Or do you want to be with other people? And then how many people? Because you did it with 4, didn't you? 2 teams of 2.
Yeah.
Bloody hell, 4 of you on that wee boat.
Yeah, and do you know what it is, mate? When you first learn about ocean rowing or like this kind of thing, and you don't have a clue, I don't come from a boating background or anything. It's kind of a posh guy's sport normally, right? So I just assumed that someone who did it solo was the biggest legend. Someone who did it in a 2 is the second biggest legend. 4 and then beyond, and the larger group is less legendary, right? The higher number. And it's actually completely wrong. The easiest way to do it is solo. The second easiest in a 2. It gets harder than more people. Because there's just so little space and privacy, you know? And even if you're not someone who cares about space and privacy, it's hard to truly encapsulate what that means over a period of months, you know? Even if you are happy with limited privacy and space and mental space, to then have 0 for months is a real challenge.
Yeah, I bet. Blimey.
Yeah.
Whew. Yeah, have to think long and hard about that one. Next one, Paul.
But to answer that, solo, yes, do it solo. I could do it solo as well. I think it's the way to go. If you can get over the fear of being at the ocean alone, which is kind of scary, the actual act day to day is much easier solo.
Do you think you will?
If it was for a world record attempt,
here we go.
And also, I know a guy, an Irish guy, who used to play for Leinster. He's actually just failed Everest this week. He's doing 7 summits as well. Him and I have been chatting about the world record for human powered around the world is like 7 years or something. But if you time it right and row the oceans at the right season and smash out like the transcontinental cycles, you could probably do it in like 12 to 18 months. But you have to row both oceans, and that's quite a big task. But I might do it if I set up that big project. I might do it then. Otherwise, I'll leave it to everyone else. It's quite.
What's the name of the chap, the Irish chap that's just filmed? Damien, that's right. Yeah, I didn't realise I'd been following him on his trips.
I actually don't know if he's completely failed. He's still there, but I know the season's passed. But I know he is also a beast. So he could do it. He could do it out of season a little bit. He got COVID, and I got evacuated.
That's right. Yeah, that's. I think the last I saw was that he got COVID, and then I saw he was heading back from that. And I haven't caught up with what he's doing. Yeah, that guy is an absolute animal, isn't he?
He's a lovely guy as well.
Yeah. I'd love to get him on the podcast for a chat, but I think you'd need about 8 hours to talk to him, wouldn't you? He's very deep. Right, next one. Paul Sparrow. Hi, both. Johnny. With all your adventures and places you have visited, what, if any, place or thing you have done in your adventure sticks in your mind as that, oh my God, moment for good or bad experience?
Oh, well, I've got quite a lot of those, but I'll tell you one that really struck me. So it took me just shy of 11 years to do the every country thing, right? And it took me 10 years to do 193 of the 197. And then I got really 194 of the 197. I got really stuck with Yemen and Saudi, because Saudi, I know now they're trying their whole sports washing thing with bin Salman, bringing all the sportsmen in to forget about their human rights issues. It's a whole nother conversation. like a few years ago in 2017, they didn't have that. He wasn't in power at the time. It was his dad or his uncle. And they were happy for the borders to stay closed. So there was no such thing as a tourist visa, and I couldn't get into the country, right? And it took me a year to get the paperwork. And also Yemen, there was a civil war, and still is a brutal civil war going on, which is essentially a proxy war between Saudi and Iran. Mm-hmm. So they obviously weren't issuing visas either. So there was no way for me to get in the country, and it was dangerous and blah, blah, blah. So it took me 10 years to do 194 countries. And it took me a year to do those 2 plus my last country, because I was fighting with paperwork and also scared as well to go to a dangerous country and didn't want to risk anyone else's safety. Anyway, I did find a way to do it. So there was an island off the coast of Yemen, belonging to Yemen, called Socotra, near the Somalian, across the Somalian waters. And I had heard that there was cargo ships that left from Oman that went to Socotra. So I tried and failed 5 or 6 times to get into Yemen, chartered our own plane and everything one time, got turned away midair by Saudi jets, blah, blah. So then I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. So then I literally flew to Oman and then went to this city called Salalah in southwest Oman on the border with Yemen. And there's a port there. And I ended up meeting this refugee from Yemen whose family are quite a big noise in Socotra, the Yemeni island I want to go to. And I just said, I'm not leaving Oman until I get on one of those Indian cargo boats that goes to Socotra. And then I just stayed there for weeks and weeks and weeks. And every day we'd go down to the dock, trying to bribe the Omani officials, trying to bribe the owner of the boat, trying to bribe the captain of the boat. And eventually we cracked it. And then I spent 4 days on this cement ship, this like wooden cement ship through the Somalian waters. And eventually it got me into Yemen. And we'd already contacted the immigration. We'd everyone paid off, no visas or anything, and arrived. And just as I was pulling into Socotra, that was my second last country. I'd just done Saudi like a month before. I'd finally cracked the paperwork on a business visa. Had to get someone to hire me from the UK. It was a fake job, nightmare. Anyway, so and my last country was going to be Norway, and I'd saved that for a big celebration. So this was essentially, in terms of difficulty, my last country. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I was pulling into the island on this cargo ship, and I was like, tears in my eyes, and all these dolphins just were escorting the boat into the dock, and I was like, "Fuck yeah, I've finally done it." Yeah, it was beautiful.
That's mega. Mate, you'd need those millions from your blogging to celebrate in Norway. It's bloody expensive there.
Oh man, I went on St. Patrick's Day, so we were in these Irish bars buying rounds of Guinness. 14 quid a pint or whatever. It's breaking my heart.
Beautiful country though, isn't it?
Beautiful people, beautiful country.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Can't say enough about the place. Right, Paul Creasy, question to Johnny. Has there been one country that you couldn't wait to get out of and would never revisit?
Yes. I had a wild experience in a small country called Guinea in West Africa.
All right.
Not to be mistaken with Guinea-Bissau, and not to be mistaken with Papua New Guinea. It's kind of south of Morocco in the kind of southwest of Africa.
Is that below Mauritania?
Yeah, below Mauritania, but below further still. Yeah. God. So to get into the country, I went on the back of this like 15-year-old's motorbike for like 11 hours through the jungle. Yeah. We crossed into this, through the rivers and all that, modified the bike so the exhaust is up here. So we're going through rivers and everything. Soaking wet. 11 hours. And then I arrived to the capital called Conakry. And it's far from beautiful, like the capital. It's got kind of a dangerous reputation, whatever. I've just spent a year traveling through a lot of scarier countries in Africa. So I'm okay with all that. Couldn't find any accommodation. End up, some Chinese guy has got a Chinese hotel at the port for the Chinese to bring in all their stuff that they're going to be selling around the continent. Pay 100 quid for this crappy little guest house, cockroaches all over the walls and everything, rank. Jeez. Anyway, I stayed there. I was like, I know I normally try to spend 2 weeks in each country. I spent the worst day getting in here. I've been here now 3 nights, 4 days. I said, I'm getting out of here. I'm going to Guinea, the country in the north, which is cool. Yeah. Former Portuguese colony. I was like, I'm getting out of here. This is scary and it's sketchy and it's nothing going on. So then I had another guy on a motorbike pick me up in the morning at like 10 a.m. And I go downstairs at like 7 a.m. to the hotel in Conakry, and the Chinese girl working behind the counter, and I can just hear gunshots in the street. And I was like, what is going on? And I was like, anyway, listen, I've got this guy coming. I'm just going to have a quick coffee, and I'm going to go on this guy's motorbike and try to get to Guinea. It was going to be another 15 hours in the back of a motorbike through the jungle to leave the country. And it turned out that there had been a prison break on the main street, and all the prisoners, they'd blown up a whole side of the prison with Semtex, and the prisoners just are running wild in the city. This is their high security prison. So there's just convicts running up and down the street, and the police are just out there shooting them like a movie. Like, wow. No health and safety, and we couldn't leave. So I was just stuck there for a whole other day while they mopped up what they could mop up. And I was like, this country was awful getting in, awful during my stay, and now I can't leave because people are shooting each other on the street. So
welcome to Africa, baby.
Yeah,
it's crazy, isn't it? I had a really bad time in Mauritania. How did you find Mauritania?
I loved it because of the iron ore train. So it's one of my
Right.
favorite ever travel experiences. Did you take that train?
No, mine was all purely overland by motorbike. So
Cool.
it was my sort of first experience of out there overland travel, not Europe. I'd just come through Morocco, Western Sahara, which are beautiful,
Nice
civilized.
roads and everything. Yeah.
Great. And then literally, I'll never forget at the border checkpoint between Western Sahara and Mauritania, the guard slid, he was immaculate in his tunic. He slid this shitty, rusty gate back, and it was just Sahara desert. And he shook my hand and went, "Bonne chance, good luck." Because I did my trip on a race bike, a Suzuki G6R1000. So fucking idiot, but I did it. So I'm in race leathers on this race bike going into the Sahara, and it was just the look of pity on this guard's face.
Yeah.
He was like, "This is you, you're dead." And it was just that, oh my God moment from then on. Bribery, robbed at gunpoint. It was chased by like the whole hijabi 4x4 Toyota truck bandits into Nouakchott. God, it was horrific sort of 10 days.
I feel like if you're going to do a West Africa trip, right? Because Morocco is almost like a first world country.
Yeah.
Western Sahara is kind of first world-ish.
Yeah.
And then you get into Mauritania, and then you're into, like I say, Guinea and all that, and Niger and Chad, and your life's in danger. The better way to do it, even though it's terrifying, is to go right into the thick of it, like Chad, Niger, or whatever, then come through your Guineas, get into, by the time you get to Mauritania and you've got actual roads, you're like, this isn't too bad, actually.
This feels playtime. Yeah, absolutely.
I
will go back.
Like the nice north into the sketchier, it gets scarier.
It gets worse and worse, doesn't it? I will go back because it beat me for sure. I end up getting like held at Rosso by a gang and
Rosso, yeah, God,
horrendous. So I ended up back in the UK after I got to Dakar in Senegal, and then ended up back in the UK and went off again from there. But I missed out Africa, and it's irked me ever since. It's like 10 years later, and I'm like, I can't let that beat me. I've got to go back and do Africa. Yeah. So one day I will.
It's harder as you get older, I think.
Aye, yeah,
the
definitely.
Suffering. It's a different level of acceptance of suffering as you get older, I find.
See, maybe it's just bravado, but in my head, I'm not bothered about that. But it's things like, I was with my wife then, but we weren't married. And now we're married. Now we've got a house together. We've got a life set up together here. And I just think, it's a bit shitty of me to foxtrot Oscar for 6 months or a year. Plus now we've got a dog, and it's like, okay, it's not, a dog's not a kid, but it's still a commitment together, isn't it? So I don't know. Maybe it's just excuses on my part. I don't know. I will do it one day.
It's a good one.
Yeah. Next one, Stuart Bailey. When you got to the North Pole, did you find yourself on the naughty or nice list when you met Santa? And what was on your Christmas list?
Naughty, 100%. And I tell you what, at the risk of saying something obvious, it was bloody freezing. It was so cold. I was not ready for it at all. I'd never been in that kind of temperature before, and I ran this marathon at the North Pole, right? And
that in itself is just ludicrous.
I had no gear, and I'd never been in the cold, never been skiing, obviously coming from my background, and I borrowed this guy's skiing gear in Bangkok and then flew to the North Pole. And I run a charity, right? We build clinics and stuff around the world, and I was doing projects in India and Nepal before in the summer. And I was like, I was running these half marathons every morning to train in like plus 40. And then I just flew straight from there to the North Pole, to Svalbard, and then took a Russian military thing to the North Pole. And I was in these guys' borrowed ski gear, absolutely freezing. And then the other people who were doing the marathon were like, oh, are you going to be warm enough? I'm like, well, this is all I've got. So I'm like, okay. And then they had the buzzer goes off to say, okay, the marathon's going to start in an hour or whatever. We've been there for a day. And everyone starts putting all this other like specialist cold gear on. And
on top of what they were wearing.
Yeah. Like, Johnny, you've only got an hour. Put your gear on. I'm like, this is my gear. This is all my gear.
Hey? And you'd never trained in cold weather running?
I've never even run a marathon before. It was my first ever marathon.
Are you insane?
Yeah, it was quite a wild experience.
What is it like running in that sort of temperature?
Yeah, it was cool.
What's it like running in? I mean, what was that? Minus 40 and
minus
below?
40, yeah, minus 40. It was hard.
funny that.
What was hard was running in the snow, because the snow would be like up to your knee. That was hard, and you have to like crunch through. Like, that was hard.
Okay, so what part of that did you think, okay, this is a good idea, let's do this?
I wanted to go to the North Pole, right? And it's the cheapest trip that was available to the North Pole. I was like, right, I'll do that one then.
Wow. Because you've done you said before, you've done the Marathon des Sables as well, haven't you? It's like, what is that, 6 or 7 marathons across the Sahara? Is that right?
6 marathons, 6 days in the Sahara, yeah. Damien also did that, actually. That was kind of, I think it's like, women are going to hate me saying this, but I think it's kind of like childbirth. Not that I would obviously experience that. That you
people are throwing things at you right now.
I know. I'm sorry. In that, women go through this really painful experience and then go round 2 again quite frequently, right? Mm-hmm. Like your mind or whatever chemicals it releases, you kind of forget the pain. Yeah. And I kind of feel like that when you do ultra marathons or endurance. Like I do remember on day 2, I did a double marathon and I was dead, right? It was like 80 miles or something in one day, and it was brutal. It took like 15 hours, 18 hours, something all through the night. And I got back and threw my bag down. We had to sleep kind of rough in the Marathon des Sables. And I was like, that was the worst day of my life. It was the most painful thing I've ever experienced. And I genuinely remember thinking that sincerely. But now looking back on it, I was like, no, I don't actually feel that bad, to be honest. and I could really consider doing it again, despite... No, but I specifically said I would never do it again when I was doing it. But now I kind of feel like, yeah, if my friends were doing it, I might do it. And you just forget the pain that you're in. It's the same with the North Pole. I forget how cold I was.
Yeah. Bloody hell. I can't even. You might be able to guess that running isn't top of my list of things to do. But wow, sounds horrific.
Anyone can do it, mate. It's the easiest thing. You just have to get off the couch and do it. It's the easiest thing.
That's it, isn't it? I think that's pretty much the same with just about any challenge out there. If you've got the strength of mind and the drive to do it, you'll do it, won't you? Whatever it is in life, if you keep that strength of mind and the focus, you will achieve it. You will do it.
And that's what I really hope my channels do. I don't want people to be like, oh, that guy's done loads of cool stuff. That's really cool. I want people to look at me and be like, that guy's such a normal guy. If he can do it, I can do it. That's what I want the message to be. Not, look how cool this is. I want to be like, look at this cool thing that a normal person can do. You can also do it.
100%. Yeah, I was the same. It was, for me, I documented my trip and I just wanted to show people that part of the reason I did it on the bike I did it in and the clothing I did it in was that it doesn't matter what you ride, where you come from, you can do it. Just set your sight on it and do it. Go for it. And you'll
exactly. It's the commitment that's tough. If you genuinely mean the commitment, that's half the battle.
Yeah. It's only over when you either finish and say it's over or you give up. That's really the only two choices. Yeah. Next one, Pete English. Hi guys, hope you're both fitting well. Fantastic achievements, Johnny. Bravo. Question, would you rather be able to talk to the animals or speak all foreign languages?
I just went through 2 different answers there. I think that was what I was going to say. I really want to speak all the languages, of course. I love languages, right?
Yeah. But
no one else can speak the animals, so you have to choose the animals. But actually, I would love to speak all the languages. I would love that. But just because you'd be the only person in the world capable of speaking to the animals, you can't turn down that. So it just has to be that.
What would you ask them? And what animal would you want to talk to first?
I love animals, mate. I love them. It's like my whole world revolves around them. I don't eat meat, and I just find myself so enamored by the nature of them. I just love them. I don't know. I actually really used to want to have a pet chimp until I started getting into animal rights and when I gave up meat and everything, I realized and it was one of the worst heartbreaking experiences of my life, learning that ethically you can't have a pet chimp. I'm like, what?
When I asked the question, the first sort of, it's 2 animals popped into my head and both are primates. One's a gorilla, silverback gorilla, and the other one's an orangutan, just because they just look so wise, don't they? When you look at them, you're like, okay, there's an animal that's seen it, done it, and is just looking at us going, you're fucking idiots. Just
I went to that. I went in Rwanda. I was in the Congo, and I went to see those mountain gorillas in the Congo.
Oh wow!
And you see the silverbacks like walking around the place. And mate, they couldn't give a shit about the humans. Like they just understand the hierarchy of power. And they just see you have to stay away from them, obviously, with risk of disease and everything. But you see them in the wild, and then the silverbacks with their tribe or pride, or whatever you call it, with gorillas, a group, I think it is. And the silverback just sees you. You're not allowed to look at him. The guides are telling you, like, don't look at him. And he just doesn't care, because he knows that if you were to challenge him, he would just rip your arms off, you know. Wow.
Yeah, I was supposed to. One of my charities that I did my trip for was Born Free, and I was supposed to do that when in Rwanda. I was supposed to go and see the gorilla sanctuary. Well, not the sanctuaries. They're going to take me out and see the gorillas wild, and go and see the orangutans over in just off Indonesia.
Borneo,
I forgot. Yeah, Borneo. Sorry, I couldn't remember the blooming name of it. I was supposed to go and do all that, and it just didn't work out. But I'd love to.
You're still young, mate.
Yeah. Right, next one. Philip Martin. Hi both. Johnny, what a life. Well done. Truly inspirational. Questions about food. What country are arepas originally from, and why are they from Venezuela and not from Colombia? Arepas, Arepas.
Oh God, let me Google it.
And his next part is, if you had to rate countries only by the quality and variety of their food, which ones would make it to your top 3 list?
That is what I thought it was. Oh, so sorry about that. There was those little potato sandwich things. Yeah, okay. I don't know why they're in Venezuela, but yes, countries and food. I love this conversation. I've thought about this long and hard, so I don't know. He said top 3 in the rankings, right?
Top 3.
Food countries, top 3, okay. Thai, obviously, where I live. Indian. There's 5. I'm sorry to ignore the question. Thai, Indian, Mexican, Lebanese, Italian.
Nice.
Not in that order, though. It depends, like, how hungover I am or whatever, depending what I want first and foremost.
Do you go for, like, Thai food, or do you go for the Western dimmed down version?
Come on, mate. I've lived in Thailand since 07, so I'm deeply ingrained with chilies for breakfast.
Oh man, I remember in Thailand, it was just when you go and ask for your food, and the lady goes, "You want it? Do you want it spicy or do you want it spicy?" And I'm all just. Not spicy. Oh, okay. And then they hand it to you, and they just sort of look. You can see like everyone from the kitchen coming out. It's like, this is the hottest we've got, fat boy. Eat it.
It's so funny, mate. Because I've been in Thailand over a decade, and now I'm just so used to chilies, right? So when I come back home, people think I eat really spicy food. Little do they know that when I'm in Thailand with my missus, she laughs at me for the level I eat. She says I eat like a baby. Next, different levels of what's possible.
Totally. That's some good countries that you listed there for food, for sure. Lebanese, that's interesting. I had a mate of mine, and he was living in he lived in Lebanon for a little while. Food's gorgeous, isn't it?
Cool country.
Really nice.
Beautiful women. Actually, unfortunately, beautiful men too. So it's tough competition. Beautiful food, beautiful country. The generous nature of Lebanese is wild. Like, how much, like, the nature of them, you as a guest in their country, they treat you so well. I really, really love Lebanon. It's not without its political problems, but it's such a cool country. And they've got baklava and shawarma, and obviously and hummus, and everything's amazing. Yeah, it's veggie friendly too.
I'd heard some such great things about Syria as well from other like motorcycle overland travelers, and I was dying to get into Syria, but it was all kicking off. It was just starting to kick off on my travel, so I didn't go in. And it's soul destroying to see what's happened to that country, because all the pictures and videos that people I know who that they got when they were there before this all happened. It's just such a beautiful historical place, isn't it? And as you said, the people would literally open up their lives to you.
Yeah, I ran a trip there last year. Actually, I took a load of my followers.
Did you?
To Syria last year? Yeah, I'm my mum actually as well. And I'll be organising another trip to Syria next year. We just go to Damascus and Babylon. It's really cool. You can actually go via Beirut as long as you've got the hookups for the visa on the border, which I do. Then you can still go to this and to Homs as well. And actually, I think Aleppo's open now, but it's a bit more dangerous. I wouldn't bring a group there.
Yeah. Can't imagine there's too much to. Well, I mean, there'll be plenty to see, but in a wrong way, really, isn't it? The place is just being
Although
leveled,
Damascus
more or less.
is still every bit as beautiful as it always was.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good to hear. I didn't realise that.
Great bar scene in Damascus, believe it or not.
Seriously?
Yeah, really, really cool nightlife. Really nice Friday, Saturday night vibes.
Wow, I never realised that. Oh,
yeah,
maybe
cool.
I will get there then. Cool.
Yeah.
Next one, Will Carroll.
Cool.
Was that?
Local beers and everything, really cool.
Yeah, that's what I loved about flipping it over slightly. Morocco, Muslim country, it's supposed to be a totally dry country, isn't it? No beer. They've got their own beer in Morocco, and you can always find a beer there, definitely, unless they don't like you, in which case, no beer. There's only a couple more questions left on Patreon here, so I won't keep you. Will Carroll, greetings from Dublin to you both. Ireland has a long history of travel and adventure. Good to see Johnny continue the tradition. Pardon my ignorance. Is this Crean? 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 Crean?
The name?
Yeah. Crean and Shackleton overcame great difficulties. Is it still the same for adventurers today, or has modern technology made things less of a challenge?
Yeah, I think we know the answer to that. And actually, I'm guilty of it as a blogger too, but I feel like YouTube and Instagram even more so has certainly reduced the romance of travel, when I first started traveling back in 2007 on this every country thing, there was no blogs really and no Instagram, no YouTube. So you had your Lonely Planet and that was the height of it. So you still had to go and get lost in countries, ask people, where should I go? Should I do this? Should I do that? And now it makes me so sad to turn up to a cool country and there's one famous waterfall or one famous viewpoint and there's just a queue of people there with their phones wanting the exact same shot because they've seen their favorite Instagrammer do it and they bring a special dress to put on just so it flows nicely and all that. And it just really breaks my heart that the romance of travel and like you said earlier about breaking down cultural barriers and educating you, and now it's just all about getting the right photograph and then hit so you can brag online about it. And so that really upsets me that travel's become that. But there is still places like when the guy asks about the exploration, there's still places that you can go if you really want to explore the world. The thing is
I'll give you 2 ticks. I'll just apologies. I'll come straight back. I've just got to sort this dog out. Apologies.
Sure.
And our last sponsor this week is the Influencer Store. The Influencer Store helps you build your brand, big or small, providing you with a solution and apparel. We help you to increase your fan base while supporting you with starting your own influencer clothing line with nothing more than just an idea or design, and there are no hidden costs. For more info, come check us out at theinfluencerstore.co.uk or drop us an email at online@influencerstore.co.uk for more information. And the Influencer Store handle all the TeapotOne merch, so if you head to TeapotOne.com, head to the shop, you'll see what they can do.
Sorry, mate.
It's all right, man. Don't worry about it. No worries. My dog just met the window cleaner for the first time, so that's what that was all about.
Obviously, I'm from Ireland, but my sister moved to London years ago, whatever. My mum was still in Ireland, and then my mum's moved up to Whitley Bay here, where I am right now, and to be closer to my sister and extended family. So she's just moved houses and new houses in, and it's like the kitchen isn't in and the living room hasn't been built and all that, so it's all chaos.
Yeah, gotcha. All fun and games, isn't it?
Right.
Right, there's only a couple of questions left, so we'll wrap this up.
I'm really sorry about that. I just wanted to be involved in the conversation and make sure it's
no problem. Totally understand, man. Totally understand. So we were chatting about the topic Will Carroll brought up about, is travel today made easier because of technology? And you were mentioning about how social media has had such a big impact.
A negative impact, I'm worried, because travel used to be this kind of humble thing that you learned that, like you say, we're all the same, and at the risk of sounding a bit Fight Clubby, you're not so special and all this, right? Whereas narcissism and all about me nature of YouTube and Instagram just completely flipped that on its head. And it's just, and you see people like, oh, I'm at the Taj Mahal, selfie, and 90% of the photograph is them, and there's a little white building in the back corner.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, totally. But do you not find like social media, it's a saint and a sinner, isn't it? Because it can be the course of the cause of so much horror in people's lives is online bullying, where, you know, grown adults, like grown adult men, for example, who you would never, ever think would be susceptible to something like bullying. And yet social media opens you up to that. But on the flip side, it also opens you up to people and cultures and places that you would never have ever have any experience of. And I think it's one of those things, isn't it, that you can go down one or two paths with it. You can go down that narcissistic path, and, you know, it's all very much look at me, look what I'm doing. And you can also use it to meet new people and explore new places. Definitely. For
sure, there's like a massive scope to do well. And like the charity that me and my buddy co-founded, we've raised over $250,000 all to do loads of cool projects around the world for developing communities. But then the reality is that if you look at the top 50 most followed Instagram accounts, it's all Kylie Jenner, Kim Kardashian, and all that. So the market dictates, or the market certainly tells us what the consumers want to consume, and that's quite a depressing reality. Yeah,
definitely. Yeah. You know, in my niche in the motorbike world, you put reasonably good looking lassie, scantily clad, next to a bike, that video is getting clicked. It doesn't matter how good your thumbnail about the latest new bike is.
Exactly.
The one that's easy on the eye, that's going to get the most clicks for sure. But, you know, that's human nature, isn't it?
It's true. And we can just choose to ignore that and create our own little world where you hope to use your social media for something positive, and you hope to showcase some cool stuff. And yeah, I guess if it doesn't affect us, there's that whole argument, like, if it doesn't affect you, keep your mouth shut. But then are you complicit in allowing it by not coming out and saying something? Maybe you're complicit. So it's a difficult thing itself, isn't it?
That's true. I always try and use social media to meet the real people. So if I'm away traveling somewhere, then I'll use my social media to go and meet them, and, you know, you stay with them. And I find that that's often a really good way of seeing parts of that country that, you know, the Instagrammers don't know about, because they just go with the tourist main attractions, where if you meet the local people, they go, no, don't go there. That's where we send the outsiders. Come here and I'll show you the real gems. Yeah, good point. Steve Wright, hi chaps. If you met your 20-year-old, this is a good one. If you met your 20-year-old younger selves, what is the one bit of wisdom you would tell them? Oh, I like that.
You go first, mate.
Cool. I would say you can do it. Just focus on it and go for it. Because I was definitely quite a shy and retiring, and humble's the wrong word, totally the wrong word, self-deprecating. I suffered from thinking I'm not good enough, you know, I could never do that. Right up until I would say coming on into my 30s, you know, I think I was I'm a big guy, you know, I'm 6'3". I used to be a bouncer in Glasgow. I played rugby. I was always quite outwardly, what's the word? Like dominant. Yeah, sort of imposing, but, you know, I'm not that in nature. You know, I was quite a quiet and introvert type of character, I would say, until I'd had a beer. Then a totally different Bruce came out. But I think as I've got older, and certainly from traveling totally changed my life, and I've become much more at peace with myself and aware that I can achieve stuff. You know, if I want to do it, no matter what it is, if I want to do it, and I really want to do it, then I will make it happen. So I would just say, go for it.
No, that's nice.
What about yourself?
You're going to laugh when I say this, but I still feel quite lazy. I feel I don't maximize my time. And I feel like I would try to ingrain a stronger work ethic and a better time management. Because I feel like people who really do a lot of cool stuff in their life, like we all have 24 hours a day, and you can do so much with that. You know what I mean? Yeah. People sit and play computer games. You can learn another language. You watch Netflix. You could run a marathon today and tomorrow and the next day. You know what I mean? There's nothing to stop you doing this. I would try to instill more self-discipline so I could achieve more with the time that I had.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I'm bad for that. Definitely. I very much sit back and go, I'll do that. I don't need to do that yet. I'll do it, I'll do it later. I'll do it tomorrow. And then the switch goes. For me, I work better under pressure, I find. But when that switch goes, it's like, fuck, we need to get this done now. So yeah, my time management isn't great. Definitely. It's good advice.
Yeah, it's always a battle.
Right, last one. Mark Fulcher. Hey up me ducks. Travelling the world and reaching such ambitious achievements is no mean feat. Credit where credit is due to Johnny. And to you, Bruce, if you haven't already mentioned that you went round the world. Cheers, Mark. Thanks, pal. What I'd like to know from you both is what's the best purchase that you've ever made that was never used and ended up in the man drawer at home for that just-in-case rainy day? Secondly, if I may, I'm currently sat at the top of a wind turbine and the view is incredible. But in your travels, you must have seen some incredible views. Which one stands out the most and why? So most useless gadget and best view.
I'm not a consumer at all, mate. Like, I lived out of a backpack for 15 years. And even to this day, I've invested my money in properties and stuff, but I still own almost nothing.
Wow.
I've got like a suitcase here at my mum's house, and I've got maybe a suitcase worth in Thailand, and that's all I really own. So I don't buy. Yeah, I hardly buy anything.
Wow. I used to be like that, but since I've got married, I've accumulated a lot more just shit, just stuff that you accumulate. But I used to be like you. I lived out of a bag, definitely. My wife's a total kleptomaniac. She hoards everything. It drives me crazy. And I think I start to do a bit of that.
I'm really careful with my money. Really careful with my money. I try to make sure I invest like 80% of what I earn or blah, blah, blah. So I don't ever burn any of my cash ever. Apart from
I wish I was like that. I'm terrible. Shiny, I'll buy it. Yeah. Amazon is terrible for me. Okay, last bit then. Best view, most incredible view. And why did it stand out?
Well, oh, wow. For me personally, I think the two most beautiful islands in the world, but they're also quite important parts of my life, is Socotra, the Yemeni island that I landed on. I think it's the most beautiful island in the world, and that's why I run tours there every year. And the second is Svalbard, which was the launching pad for North Pole. So I do think they're the two most beautiful islands in the world. But again, they mean a lot to me because they were very closely aligned to my personal goals. I mean, it's hard to ignore. I've been in and out of Nepal. We built a few libraries and stuff in Nepal. So I'm in the Himalayas a few times. And obviously I've got Everest coming up. So that always, like, the hair on my arm stands on end looking at that, because I think they look so big, those mountains, and the thought of standing on top of it is like both intimidating, but I find it quite inspiring as well. So for me, normally it's mountains and like vast landscapes rather than beaches and traditional beauty.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, just the rugged nature of nature. Yeah, I'm the same. Yeah. Cool, man. Well, listen, I really do appreciate your time. That's quite a while we spent there. There are still more questions left on some of the other social media platforms, but maybe once you've done Everest and a few other things, get you back on and we can do them. How about that?
Yeah, let me survive the 3 peaks. I'm really out of shape, because of the row. I didn't use my legs for 2 months. Yeah. So now I'm trying to get back into running. I'm really struggling, so I'm a bit worried about this 3 peak challenge thing this weekend. But let's see.
When do you head off? Tomorrow. Well, best of luck with that, man. I'll be following on your socials for sure. Where's the best place for people to go to follow along with what you've done and see what you have done in the past? Sure.
So I've written up blog posts about most of the cool stuff I've done on onestepforward.com. So you can throw your email in the subscribe list for that. And then obviously Instagram and Facebook, One Step Forward as well with the number 4. Because my surname's Ward, 1 Step 4 Ward.
Ah, gotcha. Yeah. Folks, I will put all those links down below. If you listen to the podcast, check out the show notes. If you're going to be watching the video, then check out the description and all the links to all of Johnny's socials and website. They will all be there. Mate, thank you very much for joining me. Is there any shout outs you want to give before we end?
Yes, a couple of things actually. The first one is if you're ever interested in coming on an adventure trip where normal companies take profit, we use all the money to build clinics and playgrounds and kindergartens. We've got a company called Mudita Adventures, MUDITA adventures.com, and basically we bring like 15 people along and we the project gets built for months and months and months with the money that they have paid to come on the trip. And then they come and help us finish it and furnish it. And then we go on an adventure trip for 10 days after we open the project. So that's cool. And also for anyone who's had Parkinson's as part of their life, any of their extended family, my mum's got Parkinson's. And a few years ago, we climbed Mount Fuji for her 70th birthday. And we got to the top of that, raising money. And now this November, I'm taking her to the Serengeti along with 20 people to the Serengeti Marathon. So we're raising money for that. You can see that all on my blog, I'm sure, on my Facebook and Instagram.
Mate, that is fantastic. Awesome. Folks, there will be links for all that in the show notes, like I just said. Johnny, absolute pleasure to chat with you, mate. I really do appreciate you taking the time to have a chat, and I look forward to following all your adventures, man.
Thanks, Bruce. Hopefully see you sometime, mate.
Definitely, mate. Be great to meet up and have a beer for sure.
Absolutely.
All right, folks. Hope you've enjoyed this one. Keep on doing your thing. Look after those that you love, but most importantly, live your life. Woo-ha! Dude, thank you so much, man. That was a pleasure. Really enjoyed it. Sorry to take up so much of your time.
Sorry to cut it up there.